It's beginning of turn 7. We're about halfway through the game at this point, and the weather is still fair, and Napoleon is going to continue his march towards Liège, and looks like he's got a jump on the Prussians. He's got 7 movement points, so he's going to spend 1 movement point to bring 1, 2, 3, 4. He'll bring all 4 of these corps to Hautemont. Right? Then he wants to put himself here at Hanut. That's going to mean the Prussians are going to have to attack there if they want to get to Liège. So that's 5 movement. 6 movement to bring these guys to Ligny. And then we will force march the Imperial Guard into Hanut. It'll cost them that, but that way we'll have a better standing if there's going to be a battle. So no combat for the French turn. For the Allies, it looks like Brussels is not the main target right now. So we're going to move the British, who've got 3 movement. We'll move 1 there, 1 there, and we will then move Wellington here. He can move 2, but he's got to end with 1 of his corps. And we'll leave that in Brussels. Don't want to get humbugged again there. Meanwhile, the Prussians can move 4. So they're going to, they could try to bring everything in and hit with this. So they'll move 1, 2, 3 corps there, and this corps will move there. The idea being maybe they can get pulled in as a reinforcement. It's time for a big battle. All right, so the French have 11 cards, 3 for Napoleon, 3 for the cavalry, and 5 for the Imperial Guard. They've got a couple cavalry charges, combined arms, a couple of grand batteries, lots of counterattack cards, 2 skirmish, and an infantry assault. Meanwhile, the Prussians also have 11. So 3 for each of their corps and 2 for Blucher. Lots of cavalry charges, a couple of infantry assaults, a couple of combined arms, a couple of grand batteries, and a skirmish. So let's take a look and see what happens. So the Prussians are the attackers, and as you would expect, they're going to start off with a cavalry charge. The French can counter that with their own cavalry charge, and that ends round 1. Now both players have the opportunity to bring in reinforcements, and that's exactly what they're both going to do. So let's start off with the French. Let's go ahead with the 6th Corps. We've got a tactical rating of 1, so we'd have to roll a 1 or less to get them to come in, and they do not come in. 4th Corps has a tactical rating of 1 also. Let's see if they can come in. Nope, they do not. And then finally, 3rd Corps has a tactical rating of 2. And we rolled a 2. So they now join with the units that are there. And they bring with them an additional 3 combat cards. 1, 2, 3. And let's see what the French get. They get a grand battery and a few more combined arms cards. Those are going to be helpful. So now they will have a few more cards than the Prussians. Now the Prussians are going to try to bring in their 4th Corps, and they've got a tactical rating of 1 for Bülow. So if they can roll a 1 or less, which they don't, nothing's done. Okay, it's time for round 2. The Prussians are going to do another cavalry charge, and the French can counter that with a cavalry charge of their own. Thus ends round 2. And it's time to try to bring in our reinforcements. So for the French, we've got to roll 1s for those 2 corps. Nope. And nope. And for Bülow, nope. Okay. Time for round 3. The Prussians have to keep attacking. So they will go with an infantry assault. We haven't seen one of those yet. And the French have an infantry assault to counter it with. So that ends round 3. Now, time for reinforcements for the French. Nothing, and nothing. And for the Prussians, nothing either. All right, 4th round. Prussians are going to try a grand battery. See if they have any luck with that. And the French can counter that with a grand battery of their own. And thus, that ends that round. Time for reinforcements again. Nothing for the French yet. And nothing for the Prussians. Okay, Prussians are going to go back to the drawing board here and see if they can do another infantry assault. And the French do not have an infantry assault card to counter it with, but they do have a combined arms card, so they can play that. And that ends that round. And they're going to roll and see if they can bring in some reinforcements. No, and no, and the Prussians, no either. All right, moving into the next round. Prussians are going to do a cavalry charge, and the French can counter that with a combined arms. Time to see if we can get some reinforcements. So for the French, nope, and nope, and for the Prussians, nope. All right, well, Prussians are running out of things to play. There's our grand battery card for the Prussians, and a grand battery card for the French counters that. And time to see if we can get any reinforcements. Nothing for the French, and nothing yet for the Prussians. Prussians are starting to run low on cards. They've only got 4 cards left. The French have got 7. So we're going to go with a cavalry charge. And the French can counter that with their last combined arms card. And now it's time to roll for reinforcements. Nothing yet for the French. Nothing yet for the Prussians. All right. Let's see. Well, the French are going to, the Prussians are going to play a combined arms card. And what can the what do you know? The French don't have anything to counter it with. They've run out of their own cards. So, at the last second there, Marshal Blucher pulls out a victory. Let's tally things up. All right, so we had 9 rounds of combat, and that means the French are going to lose at least 9 points there. They're also going to lose an additional one for the retreat. Now, they have to retreat back towards the place, to a friendly occupied spot, so they're going to retreat back this way. So they're here. Blucher will be here. And so let's go ahead and mark off the losses for the various corps that were involved. So Van Damme's corps will take a loss for the retreat. The cavalry and the Imperial Guard will take a loss for the retreat. And now we've got to allocate 9 more losses. So for, the Imperial Guard, maybe we'll take 2 off. Maybe we'll take 3 off from them. If we take another 1, 2, 3, the cavalry are almost dead. And then Vendôme, 1, 2, 3. So Vendôme's corps and the cavalry corps are pretty badly beaten up. That battle didn't go so well. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we take a look here. The Prussians have got to allocate 4 losses, which is half rounded down. So they've got everybody there except for Bülow's corps. So that's going to be, we'll take 1, 2 there off of the second corps, 1 off the first corps, and 1 off the third corps. So that's where things stand with the Prussian losses. Now, looking at the cards, should the French have attempted to become the attackers? If they did, they would have had a number of additional cards to play here towards the end. And as it was, they just, if they'd gotten the reinforcements, that would have been helpful. But if they'd been the attacker, then it would have been up to the Prussians to try to match them. And the Prussians only had, in the last round, 2 combined arms card and the skirmish card, while the French had all of these cards to choose from. So they could have played any number of these, and with the exception of the skirmish card, they could have gone for another couple of rounds, and at some point in time, the Prussians would have run out of something. So potentially it might have made sense for the French to become the attackers. It's hard to know when exactly to do that, and since this is my first time playing it through, you live and learn. All right, we're at the beginning of turn 8. The weather is clear. The French have 7 movement points, and they've got a decision to make. Now, they took a licking when they attacked the Prussians last turn, but they can now bring basically all of their corps in for combat. So that's pretty much what they're going to do. They're going to move everything. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 movement points to go here and attack the Prussians. They can spend a 6th point to bring the second corps up, maybe have them as a reinforcement. Well, actually, the second corps will spend an additional point to force march them there and lose a cohesion point, but we'll have, that's the largest corps aside from the Imperial Guard that the French have to play with. So it's on to combat now. All right, so this is another big battle. The French had 19 cards altogether, so we've got a bunch of cavalry charges, grand batteries, infantry assaults, counterattack, skirmish, and combined arms. The Prussians had 11, so a fair number of cavalry. They've only got 1 combined arm, so that's a problem, because that's kind of your card that works for everything. So once these other things starts to run out and you run out of combined arms, you're in trouble. So let's see how the match goes. So the French are going to go first. They'll play the cavalry charge. Now, the Prussians can answer that, or they could perhaps choose to retreat. If they do, all their corps are going to take at least 1 hit of damage for the retreat. But sticking around might be a problem for them. So it could be that it would make more sense to retreat, but come on, this is Blucher. Blucher doesn't retreat, so he's going to answer the cavalry charge with a cavalry charge of his own, and thus ends round 1. Now, Blucher, of course, always wants to be on the attack, so he's going to roll, see if he can become the attacker, and we roll a 6. So nothing there. He's going to see if he can get that other core to come in. A 6, that's no good. He needs to roll a 1 to get them to intervene. All right, the French are at it again. They're going to use a Grand Battery card, and the Prussians can answer that with a Grand Battery. So thus ends round 2. Once again, Blucher's going to try to be the attacker. Nope. And we're going to see if we can get the core to intervene. Nope. All right. Time for round 3. We'll go with an infantry assault. And the Prussians can answer that with an infantry assault of their own. And they are going to try to change things up. They do. Blucher rolls a 1, so now the Prussians will be the attackers in the next round. We're going to see if we can get that core to come in. A 2, not good enough. So now the Prussians are the attackers, and they are going to do a cavalry charge. Come on, it's Blucher after all. The French can answer that with a cavalry charge of their own, and thus ends round 4. Napoleon is going to see if he can get the initiative. He does not. And the Prussians are going to try to get reinforcements. They do not. So the Prussians, they're attackers again. They're going to go for a Grand Battery. And the French have got Grand Batteries coming out of their ears, so they're able to clear that off. Now Napoleon's going to try to get the initiative. He does so the French will be the attackers next turn, and the Prussians are going to see if they can get help. They do not. All right, time for the French to do a cavalry charge, and the Prussians can answer that with their own cavalry charge. And Blucher's going to try to become the attacker. He does not. He's going to try to get his corps to come in. A roll of a 2, not good enough for the 4th Corps. Boulot's a little slow on the march there. So the French are the attackers again. This time they're going to go with a Grand Battery. Now, the Prussians do not have a Grand Battery card, so they can only answer that with a Combined Arms card. And now Blucher really needs to become the attacker, because if the French hit him with much of anything else, he's going to be unable to respond. And so maybe he can get lucky and counter them with something else. But once you're out of Combined Arms cards, it's kind of tough. So Blucher's going to see what he can do. He rolls a 2, so he will become the attacker, and he's going to try to get his corps to come in. A 3, they do not. So now Blucher is the attacker. He's going to attack with infantry assault. And the French have got plenty of those, so they're able to answer that. And Napoleon's going to see if he can take over. He does not. Blucher's going to try to bring in his reinforcements. They do not come in. It's looking kind of bad for Blucher here. He's going to try another infantry assault. That's what he's got. And the French can answer that with their own infantry assault. And they're going to try to take over. And Napoleon rolls a 1, which is enough for the French to take the initiative and be the attackers next turn. Let's see if we can get the 4th Corps to come in. Nope, not yet. So now the French are going to attack with a cavalry charge, and the Prussians don't have anything left in their hand to counter that with. And so they are going to lose the battle and have to withdraw back towards Warem and their friends in the 4th Corps. So let's tabulate the damage. All right, so that battle went for 10 rounds. So that means the Prussians are going to need to take 10 losses plus the losses for the retreats. So we've got the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Corps involved. So let's take a look over here, and let's allocate the damage. So here's the loss for the retreat that they all have to suffer. Now on top of that, they've got to take 10 more. Well, actually 11 more, because the last card placed was a cavalry charge, so that would do another point of damage. So they got to take 11 points of damage. So if we go down, there's 2, so that leaves there's 9 left. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means I got to get rid of 4. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. Somebody's got to die. Well, I guess it's going to be the first corps is going to be down to just one little box. Almost dead. All right, so there are our losses.